Alright. This is Gadsby by Ernest Vincent Wright. It is a 30,000 or 3,000 page. Well, anyway, it's an entire novel that does not use the letter E. And today, I am going to read this first part of it. It should take about 30 minutes. And if this gets enough positive feedback, then I just might make more of these, and I might continue reading it. I'm gonna need to turn this down. Okay. I don't want to turn it down too much for y'all, though. Okay, we're good. So here we are with Gadsby. An entire story that does not use the letter E. If youth, throughout all history, had a champion to stand up for it, to show a doubting world that a child can think, and possibly do it practically, you wouldn't constantly run across folks today who claim that a child don't know anything. A child's brain starts functioning at birth, and has, amongst its many infant convolutions, thousands of dormant atoms, into which God has put a mystic possibility for noticing an adult's act and figuring out its purport. Wow. This is already pretty impressive. And oh, by the way, this book is very, very old. It's not copyrighted anymore. It's in the public domain. We can go wild with it. Anyways. Up to about its primary school days, a child thinks, naturally, only of play. But many a form of play contains disciplinary factors. You can't do this, or that puts you out. Shows a child that it must think, practically, or fail. Now, if throughout childhood a brain has no opposition, it is plain that it will attain a position of status quo, as with our ordinary animals. Man knows not why a cow, dog, or lion was not born with a brain on a par with ours. Why such animals cannot add, subtract, or obtain from books and schooling that paramount position which man holds today. Wow, all of this without the letter E. But a human brain is not in that class. Constantly throbbing and pulsating, it rapidly forms opinions, attaining an ability of its own. A fact which is startlingly shown by an occasional child prodigy in music or schoolwork. And as with our dumb animals, a child's inability convincingly to impart its thoughts to us should not class it as ignorant. Upon this basis, I am going to show you how a bunch of bright young folks did find a champion. A man with boys and girls of his own. A man of so dominating and happy individuality that youth is drawn to him as is a fly to a sugar bowl. It is a story about a small town. It is not a gossipy yarn, nor is it a dry, monotonous account full of such customary fill-ins as romantic moonlight casting murky shadows down a long, windy country road. Nor will it say anything about the tinklings, lullings, distant folds, robins caroling at a twilight, nor any warm glow of lamplight from a cabin window. No. It is an account of an up-and-doing activity, a vivid portrayal of youth as it is today, and a practical discarding of that worn-out notion that a child don't know anything. Now, any author, from history's dawn, always had that most important aid to writing, an ability to call upon any word in his dictionary in building up his story. That is, our strict laws as to word construction did not block his path. But in my story, that mighty obstruction will constantly stand in my path. For many an important common word I cannot adopt, owing to its orthography. I shall act as a sort of historian for this small town, associating with its inhabitants and striving to acquaint you with its youths, in such a way that you can look knowingly upon any child, rich or poor, forward or backward, your own, or John Smith's in your community. You will find many young minds aspiring to know how, and why such a thing is so. And if a child shows curiosity in that way, how ridiculous it is for you to snap out. Oh, don't ask things too old for you. Such a jolt to a young child's mind, craving instruction, is apt to dull its avidity, as to hold it back in its schoolwork. Try to look upon a child as a small, soft, young body and a rapidly growing, constantly inquiring brain. It must grow to maturity slowly, forcing a child through school by constant night study during hours in which it should run and play can bring on insomnia, handicapping both brain and body. Now, this small town in our story had grown in just that way, slowly. In fact, much too slowly to stand on a par with many a thousand of its kind in this big, vigorous nation of ours. This is very impressive. None of this has used the letter E. It was simply stagnating, just as a small mountain brook coming to a hollow might stop and sink from sight, through not having a will to find a way through that obstruction or around it. You will run across such a dormant town occasionally, possibly so dormant that only outright isolation by a fast-moving world will show its folly. If you will tour Asia, Yucatan, or parts of Africa and Italy, you will find many sad ruins of past kingdoms. Go to Indochina and visit its gigantic Angkor Wat. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Call at Damascus, Baghdad, pardon me, Samarkand, and Samarkand, pardon me. What sorrowful lack of ambition many such a community shows, in thus discarding such high-class construction. And I say again, that so will youth grow dormant, and hold this bug, throbbing world back. And if no champion backs it up, thus providing it with an opportunity to show its ability for looking forward and improving unsatisfactory conditions. So this small town of Branton Hills was lazily snoozing amidst up-and-doing towns as youth's champion, John Gadsby, took hold of it and shook its dwaddling, flabby body until its inhabitants thought a tornado had struck it. Call it tornado, volcano, military onslaught, or what you will. This town found that it had a bunch of kids who had wills that would admit of no snoozing, for that is youth, on its onward march of inquiry, thought, and action. If you stop to think of it, you will find that it is customary for our grown-up brain to cast off many of its functions of its youth, and to think only of what it calls topics of maturity. Amongst such discards is many a form of happy play, many a muscular activity such as walking, running, climbing, thus totally missing the alluring joy of living of childhood. If you wish a vacation from financial affairs, just go out and play with youth. Play blind man's buff, hopscotch, ring toss, and football. Go out to a charming woodland spot on a picnic with a bright, happy, vivacious group. Sit down at a corn roast, marshmallow toast. Join in singing popular songs. Drink a quart of good, rich milk. Burrow into that big lunchbox. And all such things as banks, stocks, and family bills will vanish on fairy wings into oblivion. But this is not a claim that man should stay away. This is not a claim that man should stay always youthful. Supposing that famous Spaniard landing upon Florida's coral strands had found the mythical fountain of youth, what a calamity for mankind. A world without maturity of thoughts, without man's full-grown muscular ability to construct mighty buildings, railroads, and ships. A world without authors, doctors, pardon me, savants, musicians, nothing but youth. I cannot think of but a solitary approval of such a condition. For such a horror as war could not occur. For a child is naturally a small bunch of sympathy. I know that boys will scrap, also that splats will occur amongst girls. But at such a monstrosity as killings by bombing towns, sinking ships, or mass annihilation of such pardon me, will occur amongst girls. But such a monstrosity as killings by bombing towns, sinking ships, or mass annihilation of marching troops, childhood would stand aghast. Not a tiny bird would fall, nor would any form of gun nor facility for manufacturing it insult that almost holy purity of youthful thought. Anybody who knows that racking sorrow brought upon a child by a dying puppy or cat knows that childhood can show us that our fighting, our policy of tooth for a tooth, is abominably wrong. Abominably, abominably wrong. So now, that is our story. Pardon me, it's getting hot in here. I need to open a window. I should have established at the beginning of the video this is not going to be a very professional read-through. Branton Hills was a small town and a rich agricultural district, and having many a possibility for growth. But through a sort of smug satisfaction with conditions of long ago, had no thought of improving such important adjunctions as roads, putting up public buildings, nor laying out parks. In fact, a dormant, slowly dying community, so satisfactory was its status that it had no form of transportation to surrounding towns but by railroad, or Old Dobbin. Now, any town thus isolating its inhabitants will invariably find this big, busy world passing it by, glancing at it curiously as at an odd animal at a circus, and you will find caring not a whit about its condition. Naturally, a town should grow. You can look upon it as a child, which through natural conditions should attain manhood, and add to its surrounding thriving districts its products of farm, shop, or factory. It should show a spirit of association with surrounding towns, crawl out of its lair, and find how backward it is. Now, in such towns, you will find occasionally an individual born with that sort of brain which, knowing that his town is backward, longs to start things towards improving it. Not only its living conditions, but adding an institution or two, such as any city, big or small, maintains gratis for its inhabitants. But so forward looking, a man finds that trying to instill such notions into a town's ruling body is about as satisfactory as butting against a brick wall. Such boards, as you find ruling many a small town, function from such a soporific rut that any hint of digging cash from its cast iron strongbox with its big brass padlock will fall upon minds as a rigid rock. Branton Hills had such a man, to whom such rigidity was as annoying as a thorn in his foot. Continuous trails brought only continual thorn pricks, until finally a brilliant plan took form as John Gadsby found Branton Hills High School pupils waking up to Branton Hills sloth. Gadsby continually found this bright young bunch asking, "Aw, why is this town so slow? It's nothing but a dry twig." "Ha," said Gadsby. "A dry twig, that's it. Many a living, blossoming branch all around us. And this solitary dry twig, with a tag hanging from it, on which you will find Branton Hills, a twig too lazy to grow." Now, this put a hunch in Gadsby's brain, causing him to say a high school pupil is not a child now. Naturally, a high school boy has not a man's qualifications, nor has a high school girl womanly maturity. But such kids, born in this swiftly moving day, think out many a notion which will work, but which would pass our dads and granddads in cold disdain, just as ships pass at night. But supposing that such ships should show a light in passing, or a bloom, or blow a horn, or if, by golly, I'll do it. And so Gadsby sat on his blossom-bound porch on a mild spring morning, thinking and smoking. Smoking can calm a man down, and his thoughts had so long and so constantly clung to this plan of his that a cool outlook as to its promulgation was not only important, but paramount. So as his cigar was whirling and puffing rings aloft, and as groups of bright, happy boys and girls trod past to school, his plan rapidly took form as follows. Youth. What is it? Simply a start. A start of what? Why, of that most astounding of all human functions, thought. But man didn't start his brain working. No. All that an adult can claim is continuation, or amplification of thoughts, dormant in his youth. Although a child's brain can absorb instruction, I'm going to make sure I'm recording. I'm going to be really pissed if I haven't been recording this whole time. Okay. Although a child's brain can absorb instruction with an ability far surpassing that of a grown man, and although such a young brain is bound by rigid limits, it contains a capacity for constantly craving additional facts. So, In our backward Branton Hills, I just know that I can find boys and girls who can show our old mossback town hall bigwigs a thing or two. Why, on town hall nights, just go and sit in that room and find out just how stupid and stubborn a council put into town hall, you know, through popular ballot, can act. Say that a road is badly worn. Shall it stay so? Up jumps old Bill Simpkins claiming that it is a townsman's duty to fix up his wagon springs if that road is too rough for him. As Gadsby sat thinking thus, his plan was rapidly growing, and in a month was actually starting to work. How? You'll know shortly, but first, you should know this is John Gadsby, a man of around 50, a family man, and known throughout Branton Hills for his high standard of honor and altruism on any kind of occasion for public good. I should have done this right here a long time ago. Make the words bigger. A loyal churchman, Gadsby was a man who, though admitting that an occasional fault in our daily acts is bound to occur, had taught his 2 boys and a pair of girls that though folks do slip from what scriptural authors call that straight and narrow path, it will not pay to risk your own soul by slipping, just so that you can laugh at your ability in staying out of prison. For Gadsby, having grown up in Branton Hills, could point to many such man or woman. So, with such firm convictions in his mind, this upstanding man was constantly striving so to act that no complaint from man, woman, or child should bring a word of disapproval. In his mind, what a man might do was that man's affair only and could stay no soul but his own. And his altruism taught that it is not difficult to find many ways in which to bring joy to such as cannot, through physical disability, go out to look for it, and that only a small bit of joy brought to a shut-in invalid will carry with it such a warmth as can flow only from acts of human sympathy. For many days, Gadsby had thought of ways in which folks with a goodly bank account could aid in building up this rapidly backsliding town of contribution could do. In this town, full of capitalists and philanthropists contributing off and on for shipping warming pans to Zulus, Gadsby saw a solution. In whom? Why, in just a bunch of bright, happy school kids, back from many a visit to a city, and noting its ability in improving its living conditions. So Gadsby thought of thus carrying an inkling to such capitalists as to how this stagnating town could claim a big spot upon our national map, which is now shown only in small, insignificant print. As a start, Branton Hills Daily Post would carry a long story outlining a list of factors for improving conditions. This it did, but it will always stay as a blot upon high minds and proud blood that not a man or woman amongst such capitalists saw in his plan any call for dormant funds. But did that stop Gadsby? Can you stop a rising wind? Hardly. So, Gadsby took into counsel about 40 boys of his vicinity and built up an organization of youth. Also, about as many girls who had known what it is compulsorily to pass up many a picnic or various forms of sport through lack of a public parkland. So this strong, vigorous combination of both youth and untiring activity avidly took up Gadsby's plan. For nothing so stirs up a youthful mind as an opportunity for accomplishing anything that adults cannot do. And did Gadsby know youth? I'll say so. His two sons and girls, now in high or grammar school, had taught him a thing or two, principal amongst which was that all-dominating fact that at a not too far distant day, our young folks will occupy important vocational and also political positions, and will look back upon this day, our day, smiling kindly at our way of doing things. So to say that Minnie of Branton Hills, king of capital, got a bit huffy as a high school stripling was proving how stubborn a rich man is if his dollars don't aid so vast an opportunity for doing good, would put it mildly. Such downright gall by a half-grown kid to inform him, an outstanding light on Branton Hill's tax list, that this town was sliding downhill and would soon land in an abyss of national oblivion. In our organization, girls, how Branton Hill's rich old widows, plump matrons did sniff in disdain as a group of high school pupils brought forth straightforward claims that cash paving a road is doing good practical work, but in filling up a strong box is worth nothing to our own. Oh, that class of snobs, how thoroughly Gadsby did not know its parsimony, and how thoroughly did his hard-planning man know just what a constant onslaught by youth could do. So, in about a month, his organization had waylaid, so to say, practically half of Branton Hill's cash kings, and had so won out through that commonly known pull upon an adult by a child asking for what plainly is worthy, that his mail brought not only cash, but two rich landlords put at his disposal tracts of land for any form of occupancy which can in any way aid our town. This land Gadsby's organization promptly put into growing farm products for gratis distribution to Branton Hill's poor, and that burning craving of youth for activity soon had its sprouting corn, squash, potato, onion, and asparagus crops, and to doll it up a bit, put in a patch of blossoming plants. Naturally, any man is happy at a satisfactory culmination of his plans, and so as Gadsby found that public philanthropy was but an affair of plain ordinary approach, it did not call for much brain work to find that possibly also a man might turn up for putting handicraft instruction in Branton Hills schools, for schooling, according to him, did not consist only of books and blackboards. Hands also should know how to construct various practical things in woodwork, plumbing, blacksmith, masonry, and so forth, through instruction in sanitation, and that most important of all youthful activity, gymnastics. Alright, the most important of all youthful activity, gymnastics. For girls, such a school could instruct cooking, suit making, hat making, fancy work, art, and loom work. In fact, about any handicraft that a girl might wish to study, and which is not in our standard school curriculum. But as Gadsby thought of such a school, no way for backing it financially was in sight. Town funds naturally should carry it along, but town funds and town councils do not always form what you might call synonymous words. So it was compulsory that cash should actually drop into his lap via a continuation of solicitations by his now grandly functioning organization of youth. So, out again trod that bunch of bright, happy kids, putting forth such plain, straightforward facts as to what manual training would do for Branton Hills that many saw in that light. But you will always find a group or individual complaining that such things would automatically dawn on boys and girls without any training. Old Bill Simpkins was loud in his antagonism to what was a crazy plan to dip into our town funds just to allow boys to saw up good wood and girls to burn up good flour, trying to cook biscuits. Kids, according to him, should go to work in Branton Hills shopping district and profit by it. Bah! Why not start a class to show goldfish how to waltz? I did not go to any such school, and what am I now? A councilman. I can't saw a board straight nor fry a potato chip, but I can show you folks how to hang on to your town funds. Old Bill was a notorious grouch, but our organization occasionally did find a totally varying mood. Old Lady Flanagan, with 4 boys in school, and a husband many days too drunk to work, was loud in approval. Alright, I'm gonna take a break. Okay, we're almost done for today. Okay, where were we? Old Bill was a notorious grouch, but our organization occasionally did find a totally varying mood. Old Lady Flanagan, with 4 boys in school, and a husband many days too drunk to work, was loud in approval. Whoops. Thought for what I calls a grand thing, Aurora. I wish old man Flanagan had sick an opportunity. Had such an opportunity. But thought ignorant old Claude don't know nothing but booze and tobacco smoking and ditch digging. And thought our console ain't paying for no ditch scooping right now, so I'll shout for Thought's school. For my boys find out how to fix Thought's barn door. Our old cow laid down against. Haha! What a circus organization had with such varying moods and outlooks. But finally, such a school was built, instructors brought in from surrounding towns, and Gadsby was as happy as a cat with a ball of yarn, as Branton Hills found out what it can accomplish if it starts with vigor and a will to win. Our organization thought of laying out a big park, furnishing an opportunity for small tots to romp and play on grassy plots. A park for all sorts of sports, picnics, and so forth. Sand spots for babyhood, cozy arbors for girls who might wish to study or talk. You might possibly find a girl who can talk, Also, shady nooks and winding paths for old folks who might find comfort in such. Gadsby thought that a park is truly a most important adjunction to any community, for if a growing population has no outdoor spot at which it glooms, slumps, and morbid thoughts can vanish upon wings of sunlight amidst bright colors of shrubs and sky. It may sink into a grouchy, fault-finding, squabbly group, and making such a showing for surrounding towns as to hold back any gain in population or valuation. Gadsby had a goodly plot of land and a grand location for a park and sold it to Branton Hills for $1. That stingy council to lay it out according to its plans, and how his organization did applaud him for this, his first solo work. But schools and parks do not fulfill all of a town's calls. Many minds of varying kinds will long for an opportunity for finding out things not ordinarily taught in school. So Branton Hills Public Library was found too small. As it was now in a small back room in our high school, it should occupy its own building downtown, and handy for all, and with additional thousands of books and maps. Now, if you think Gadsby and his youthful assistant stood aghast at such a gigantic proposition, you just don't know youth, as it is today. But to whom could youth look for so big an outlay as a library building would cost? Books also cost. Librarians and janitors draw pay. So, with light, warmth, and all-round comforts, it was with a task to stump a full-grown politician, to say nothing of a plain ordinary townsman and a bunch of kids. So Gadsby thought of taking 2 bright boys and 2 smart girls to Washington to call upon a man in a high position who had got it through Branton Hills' popular ballot. Now, any politician is a convincing orator. That is, you know, all that politics consists of. And this big man, in contact with a visiting capitalist looking for a handout for his own district, got a donation of $1,000. But that wouldn't start a public library, to say nothing of maintaining it. So back in Branton Hills again, our organization was out, as usual, on its warpath. Branton Hills philanthropy was now showing signs of monotony, so our organization had to work its linguistic ability of captivating tricks full blast, until that $1,000 had so grown that a library was built upon a vacant lot which had grown nothing but grass, and only a poor quality of it at that. And many a child and adult quickly found ways of profitably passing odd hours. Naturally, old Bill Simpkins was snooping around, sniffing and snorting at any signs of making Branton Hills look cityish, a word originating in Bill's vocabulary. I don't put in any foolish hours with books in my happy childhood in this good old town. But I got along alright, and now I'm having my say in its town hall doings. Books? Puh. Maps? Bah. It's silly to squat in a hot room squinting at a lot of print. If you know about a thing, go to work in a shop or factory of that kind and find out firsthand. But Bill, said Gadsby, shops want a man who knows what to do without having But Bill, shops want a man who knows what to do without having to stop to train him. Oh, that's bosh. If a boss knows a man what a tool is for, and if that man is any good at all, why bring up this stuff you call training? That man grabs the tool, works till noon, knocks off for an hour, works till... At this point, Bill's blow-up an Italian councilman was passing, and put in his oar with, "Ha, Bill! You think your man can work all right first day, huh? You talk crazy. So much for my buta. You last just half hour. This library all right. This town too much what I call tightwad. Oh hum. It's tough job making old dog. It's a tough job making old dogs do tricks. But our organization was now holding almost daily sittings, and soon a bright girl thought of having band music in that now popular park. And what do you think that stingy council did? It actually built a most fantastic bandstand. Got a contract with a first-class band, and all without so much as a councilman fainting away. So finally, on a hot July Sunday, 2 solid hours of grand harmony brought joy to many a poor soul who had not for many a day known that balm of comfort which can air out of our brains' dusty corridors and bring such happy thrills as music, that charming fairy which knows no human words can bring. Around that gaudy bandstand at 2:30 on that first Sunday sat or stood as happy a throng of old and young as any man could wish for, and Gadsby and his gang got hand clasps and hand claps from all. A good band, you know, not only can stir and thrill you, for it can play a soft crooning lullaby, a lilting waltz or polka, or, with its woodwinds, bring forth old songs of our childhood, ballads of courting days, or hymns and carols of Christmas, and can suit all sorts of folks in all sorts of moods, for a Spaniard, Dutchman, or Russian can find similar joy with a man from Italy, Norway, or far away in Brazil. Very impressive. Alright, that's all we'll read for today. Should I do more of these? I want you to tell me. I'd like to find out. Like this video if you want me to do more of these. I'm Toxic Wild Hog. And this was part 1 of Gadsby by Ernest Vincent Wright. None of this had the letter E in it. It's just absolutely amazing.